that, Powell used to send him personally top secret briefings. And, of course, I was the intelligence sergeant, so he would bring them down to the shop, and he'd say, I need these things shredded. He says, I'm going to watch you do it, because I have to sign off on it afterwards. And he said, don't you look at any of this. But you can't avoid looking at things, you know.
Yeah, right.
And it was stuff all over the world, and I said something, you know, I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I said, oh, that's from, well, let's just make up Angola. And he says, yeah. He says, I'm being groomed for another assignment after I leave here. And I said, oh, okay.
Your boss did?
Yeah, my boss was.
Now, he must work
he
with
was
my
going
husband.
to someplace special afterwards. I don't know where.
Well, Tom had to fly in from the field. He went over, was working when they were throwing satchels on those oil. You remember all the oil between Bush and Iran and Iraq. Let's see. They would go over there and throw satchels on those big old round things of oil, right? And so he would have to report in. But he went over there, Tom, while he was over there, he went into, the guy, Saddam Hussein had a big old palace-like thing and a big fence around it. And the Cullen didn't believe it. I keep wanting to say, I don't want to say Arnold Schwarzenegger, but Schwarzkopf, is it Schwarzkopf?
Schwarzkopf.
Okay, I finally got it. General Schwarzkopf. So Tom worked for General Schwarzkopf, but when they got rid of him, they called Tom in, and he had to brief Colin Powell because Tom was the only one in the field. You know, they'd fly him in out of the field on a helicopter to brief, and Tom went to those big meetings with the guys that wore the skirts for not
the
short.
guys that wore the skirts.
Yeah, the guys.
You're funny.
That's the way he said it. He said because he said the guys that wear the skirts came in and wanted protection from our government, and they'd be at a big conference table, and I'm trying to think of the name. What's the name of that? They wanted protection. Do you remember, Jan?
You're not talking about the Kurds, are you?
No, they're the big expensive place over there.
The Kuwaitis.
Kuwaitis, that's it. So Tom was working, and I was over in Houston with the Bush money and the Bush oil embargo stuff, I guess. And he was over there in going to the meeting with the Kuwait prince or whatever. But Tom had saved his little granddaughter out in the field where they were being bombed. He didn't know it was, so he wanted to meet Tom. But he had to train everybody after that. But Tom got in trouble with that guy for wearing a cross that fell out. But the chaplain, before he went there from Germany, gave it to his group of 25 men, I guess, that were going in like the double dirty dozen or something, right? But this guy, after he was like, he threw his weapon over to that guy that wore the skirt, the Prince of Kuwait. He wouldn't pick it up. But Tom said he had two guys that even wiped his butt, you know, standing behind him. Tom was very graphic. He didn't have much respect for people that wore skirts and had men to wipe their butt for them. So, you know, truth is strange when you hear people talk about it. But he would never write the book. But I find it funny that you know Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell. You know who I'm speaking of. So this is cool because he was in that artillery division in Grafenwehr, and I should have. I had all that written down and stuff in his books. His sister's got it in Kentucky. So what was the name of your battalion you worked with? You didn't go over to fight like he did. He had 20 so many schools, and he was a sharpshooter and worked for Reagan and Bush. But y'all worked. Now he worked. There's more things to do than that. But he was assigned because when he was at Fort Hood, he trained in Georgia for sharpshooting and went to Fort Hood. So General Crosby Saint was there. And when I went to Fort Hood, they wanted me to talk about General Crosby Saint in the intelligence community before he went to California. So he went and retired. I went in. I had Fleet Post Office, New York, 80, but apparently I was in when I went to before. I was a 4x10 between 80 and 93. And for some reason, they don't have all my paperwork, but we can get into that later. So you went in officially, you spent 25 years, right? Is that correct?
Right. So
what did you do, 70 to 94 or 69 to 94?
67 and 94.
Whoa. And you became a 9, E9, right?
E8.
What
E8,
happened to the 9?
Sergeant.
What happened to the 9? Was it because you weren't a specialist in something they wanted you to do? Politics?
They wanted somebody in a leadership position for Sergeant Major. And I had just, when I made E8, all my assignments were staff. So I think that meant I was considered, but I wasn't promoted.
Okay. Now, Janet knows Bob Dean, and Bob Dean, which we've talked about, but now he worked in some heavy classified besides security manager, but he worked in Paris. My husband went from Grafenbeer to Paris, and Bob Dean did some stuff that we wanted to know about, so Janet likes that. So, but do you know any, I know you're pro and con on the details, but I haven't had a chance to talk to Janet about Bob Dean, but Janet was the one that was instrumental in helping Bob and me, and we're trying to keep all this stuff up with the UFO stuff, but we were going to do it with Bob Dean, and of course he's dead now. But do you have any memories or the time or any archives on Bob Dean?
No, I met him at the Roswell Museum one time. He was an APRO, and then he became a board member APRO. And,
now tell people what that is.
Well, he was it's a UFO organization that started in 1952, and he was an officer in the Area Phenomena Research Organization. Cora Lorenzen was the director, and he was an officer of the organization, and later on, when they established a board, he was a board member.
Now, Janet, did Jan ever agree? Not Jan. This is Jan Aldrich. Jan is working with us. This Jan and the other Jan is working in the ACO with us, just so you know, Janet. But they both agreed. But Jan said because he had experience, not this Jan Harzan, said because he had a contact experience, he's writing a book, right? But he wanted to, Jan Harzan's writing a book. But Janet met Bob Dean, and he and her was in a meeting, and we needed a new organization. But Janet and I met years ago, but we were trying to bring it full circle. So all of us, including all the Jans, I guess, because see, Jan's Janet, I'm a Jan, Teresa Jeanette, and then Jan Harzan, and this is Jan Aldrich, folks. So there's 4 Jans I was trying to bring together. Hopefully it'll happen sooner or later. But Jan, now did you meet Jan Harzan? You did meet Bob Dean. We've established that.
I met Jan.
Janet met Jan Harzan as well.
Yeah, I met Harzan too. I met him at Orlando.
Wow.
When they had a conference at Orlando, I met him down there. And that's about the best MUFON conference I've ever been to, was the Orlando one.
Tell us about it. Yeah, go ahead, Janet.
I was just going to add, I was in L.A. I forget, a couple years back, and we did a small conference in one of those cities in L.A., one of the little cities in L.A., in a small theater, about 100 people in. And I was on after Jan, and then before, what's his name? The guy that goes to Congress all the time. What's his name? Strong is like his name. Sorry.
Are you talking about Alejandro?
No, not Alejandro. I'll think of his name. The guy who's always trying to lobby. He's a lobbyist. The only UFO lobbyist. Anyway, I just saw him today. I can't think of his name right now.
Bassett?
Steve Bassett. Yeah, Steve Bassett.
Okay.
So we were on after Jan Harzan and before Steve Bassett in this little 2-day mini conference with 100 people. It was really great. And they filmed it all, but I've never seen anything this filmed. So who knows what happens when they film. But people film things all the time.
Well, this is still a good historical show tonight because we're establishing there's so many kids that don't know the truth anymore. It's good that we're still alive and we'll share that we lived through this stuff. And I met J. Allen Hynek. Now, did either one of y'all meet J. Allen Hynek? Jan, Aldrich,
yes.
You've heard?
No.
No. Okay,
no, I never met him.
Janet?
Because I was in Germany most of the time.
Right. Tom didn't meet him either. Because Tom helped me get this stuff going. But Tom was in my life before Janet was. But I didn't know you were over there working the same time we were in European theater. But that's okay. Janet was working with me in the Pacific, all right, Pacific Rim, right? And so we had I was Navy, but I did Army work too. And in the uniform, I was called a lieutenant. But in the I was called a petty officer enlisted in the Navy. I don't understand why they did that, but in the field they give you officer positions. It's strange. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And I worked in Marines too. But Jan, you know what's good about working with you, Jan, is you know how the Army does, or the military in S2 division. But you didn't work in S2, but did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did? All right, Tom did too. You don't remember meeting a guy named Thomas Morris, Sergeant Morris?
Nope, no.
Well, he stayed out doing black ops or, I don't know, assassin work, I guess you'd say, or spy work. You know?
No, S2 is a battalion-level intelligence operation. So that's where I worked in S2. If you're talking about some kind of, above reality stuff, no, I never worked in anything like that.
I don't know if it's above reality. It was the same office. I worked in the JAG office, which is where the attorneys are. And there was a S2 in Germany, in Grafenberg. There was a S2 office where he worked.
Right.
With attorneys.
When I went to Italy, I worked on the general staff down there. So then I was, but I worked in safety. So I was supposed to be a GS, I think it was GS-18 position, but they didn't have anybody, so they threw me in there because supposedly I'm a fast learner. That was their mistake. That was their mistake. That was their mistake.
I worked inside a vault too because I was a fast learner, but my officer was under investigation and they had nobody else.
Yeah. Well,
so it's one of those, oh well, just